Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Q&A session. Today, we are talking all about using Instagram in our health coaching business, and specifically 3 mistakes that you are likely making if you're on the platform, or 3 mistakes that you are likely to make if you hop on the platform without any guidance at all. I want to start off by saying I am not an internet guru. However, anything I am doing well that is working on Instagram, I learned from Julie, and Julie Fischer is a health coach just like the rest of us. And Julie, would you consider yourself an Instagram guru?
No, I would not. I
Like,
wouldn't.
we're health coaches first, and who has all day to be doing all this social media stuff? But that said, we can use these tools in an effective way without it taking over our lives. So that's like, whew, right there. Why don't you tell everyone a little about yourself and kind of how you got interested in using Instagram in the first place? Because you've been coaching a while, you've been on Instagram for a while. We have a lot to learn from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me. And you're right. I started Instagram long ago, well before I even went to health coaching school. So I kind of had started it because I had changed my diet to a gluten-free diet because of my autoimmune disease. And my kids were lingering around as preteens on the platform. So I decided I would start a random account. I called it Gluten-Free Good Life. That was my handle way back when. And I just kind of started posting and sharing, posting and sharing. And sort of as time went on, once I did decide to enroll in nutrition school, started my business, created my website, started seeing some clients, everything in my world was healthy on Hudson. And I sort of was like, I could probably do something with this Instagram thing that I've been just playing with as gluten-free good life, right? And so eventually it was just few years ago that I decided to change over my Instagram to a business account to match the rest of my business and really start using Instagram much more strategically for finding clients, finding partnerships, getting into new programs and things like that. And it's really been successful for me. It certainly is a big part of how people kind of know and recognize me in the coaching world, for sure.
Yeah, you have a nice presence for yourself. And again, it's not like you have 300,000 zillion followers or anything like that. You're operating at a scale that, like, I think makes sense for a health coach, a solopreneur, right? Where it's not about vanity metrics, how many followers, how many likes. It's actually about, is it working? Are you creating connections, having conversations, and signing clients? So just to be clear, so everyone can hear this, you can sign clients straight off Instagram if you're using it well. I've had that experience, and I know you've had that experience.
Yes, absolutely. Right. It's about finding not just followers, but the right followers, and about not just making connections, but making the right connections. So even if you have 100, 500, 1,000, 5,000, however many followers you have, making sure that you're making the most of those connections and making the most of your time, more importantly, right? We're all pretty busy. And so we want to make sure that the time that we are spending on Instagram is valuable.
Terrific. So listen, you guys, if you are here live, and I know a bunch of you are, and you have questions about Instagram, go ahead and throw them in the comment section. I am monitoring that over here. I also want to let you know that Julie has a 5-day boot camp coming up if you want to up your Instagram game and make sure you have everything you need in place to actually use the platform effectively. And that's starting on November 15th.
15th. Yep.
15th to the 19th. This is going to be something that's easy to participate in. It's very accessible. This is a program I think all of you can manage, meaning it's not like a gigantic time commitment or anything like that, but it's going to be very effective. I love what you've put together, Julie. We'll talk a little bit more about it at the end, but for anyone who's interested, you can check it out at healthcoachpower.com/Instagram. You'll get the details and sign up there. Today, I want to get into these 3 big mistakes. So I know I follow a lot of you guys on Instagram, and we see a lot of health coaches that are out there on social media in general. So a lot of the same themes come up again and again. So I know this is what you're pulling from, Julie. So when you say we're making this big mistake, what is the first one? What comes to mind first?
Yeah. So the first thing that I tend to see is just in general that profile. right? So kind of that is the first thing that people are going to see when they're attracted to your account. And it has a couple of different components. So you may not be making all of the mistakes within your profile, but you might be making one, two, or even all three of them. But basically the first one just being, taking advantage of that real estate, making sure that when you're putting your bio in, that it really clearly identifies who should be reaching out to you. It's important to include a mix of who you are, so something about you, but also really something about the person that you're trying to help. So including for those of us that have kind of a target market defined or my best work statement defined, really knowing who you're speaking to is so important when it comes to that bio. The other components of that profile that you want to make sure are kind of all buttoned up is your photo. I can't tell you how many times I kind of look at a health coach site or a health coach Instagram profile, and it's, like mine was at the beginning, a bowl of oatmeal. My first profile picture on Gluten-Free Good Life was a bowl of oatmeal with blueberries next to it. Yes, it actually was.
Because that's who you were. You were a bowl of oatmeal.
I was a bowl of oatmeal with blueberries, and that was my gluten-free good life, right? So it wasn't until but much later that someone was like, we might want to see what you look like, right? So but as you start building that know, like, trust factor, right? We've all kind of learned that at some point in our life that you want to be able to make those connections before you trust a person. Put a picture of you, something that's clear that they can see your face, so that when the day comes that they meet you in person or on Zoom, they're like, oh, yeah, I recognize you.
I mean,
right?
honestly, it's not that different from a dating profile. I don't know how many of our listeners have dated recently, but even like old school classified ads, it's almost like, we want people to get to know us and we want to talk about ourselves, but it's beyond that. We also want to say like who we're looking for, right? Seeking. Who we're seeking.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And just like a dating profile, would you want it to be a bowl of oatmeal? No, you want it to be a picture of yourself. What about a logo, right? Because so many coaches put their logo in that space.
Right. I mean, unless you're Starbucks, right? Or someone else that has a super recognizable logo, you're better off using your face. Right. So if you're a health coach that's selling a product, and so like the logo branding is super important, maybe. But if your primary business is coaching and your goal is for people to want to work with you, not to buy what you're selling, right? If you're selling yourself, the picture is the way to go.
Yeah, like this is your logo, right? Because in coaching, like we're selling a relationship. Coaching is so personal. So even on Facebook, even inside our Facebook group, you guys, I like to see your faces. It's how we, sad as it is, I guess, it's how we meet these days. And so the more I know the more I see your face in your profiles, the better I get to know all the members of our community. And the same thing goes with all of your followers on Instagram or Facebook or wherever you are. Okay,
Yeah.
so we know that our bio needs to say something about who we are and what we do as a health coach, who we serve, what problem we can help you solve. We know that we should have a picture of our face in our profile picture.
Absolutely. And then that third component of that profile is that link, right? Instagram will call it your website, but we know that it can be a link to any number of things, but you just get one link. And I like to think of that almost like as the hook, sort of, right? If you're on that dating app, right? If that app could reach out to you and be like, hey, this is why you should come to me. This is how I want to take you from this app into real life. That's what you use that link for. So it could be your website, but even better, it's like, what are they getting from you? Maybe it's 5 tips about the most important thing that they need to learn right now. So some kind of opt-in, right? Maybe it's a free Facebook group that you have that they want to come into, something that you're going to give them for free that's going to change their life in that moment, but also is going to ideally get them into your mailing list. So you're taking that relationship off of Instagram into your own personal space in some way.
Yes.
Right. So that's critical.
I'm so glad you mentioned mailing lists, because I was going to say one of the biggest mistakes I see coaches making on social media in general, or just with marketing in general, is that we think that just because we have some followers, they're going to become clients, or just because, someone has viewed our Instagram profile, like, well, why haven't they booked a call with me? And that's just not going to happen. It's not how these things work. So Instagram is what we might call top of funnel, which means it's like when you're first becoming acquainted with somebody, it'd be like meeting somebody at a party and then like proposing to them the next second. Like that doesn't happen. And the same thing with marketing yourself. First, we have to meet people, then we have to get to know each other, right? There is like a courtship involved. So at the top of your funnel is where you are meeting people, maybe on Instagram. And then the very best thing you can hope for is that they sign up for something that lands them on your mailing list. And if that's happening, you're using Instagram very, very well. That's like one of the major goals that you should have for being on the platform at all. And from there, you're going to nurture your relationship with them. You're going to go out on a few more dates. You're going to, have conversations. And after they feel like they know, like, and trust you, then you're looking at, is this a person that might be a good fit for coaching? So anyway, so those are all really great tips for setting up your bio, including the link. Do you want to just mention Linktree? Because I feel like a lot of people see that, you get that one link, but if you want to be promoting a couple of things, or you want to have a link to your website and your Facebook page, like, what is Linktree all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a couple of platforms like this now. So I'll mention Linktree because that's the one I use, but there definitely are others out there if you kind of Google. But with Linktree, it's a simple, easy, really easy to use application where you can do it right on your computer. You simply sign up with your Instagram profile, and you can create multiple links. So you guys may have seen this where you click on someone's link in their bio and then you see like multiple buttons. So very often that's what they're using, Linktree or a similar service. And so like Michelle said, you can say, get my free thing, right? Whatever it is that you're giving away, or join my free Facebook group, or join my upcoming program. Maybe you even slip in an affiliate link in there. So this way, pretty much anything and everything that you're talking about that you want people to be able to do can be included in that list, which is
It'd
pretty
be like
cool.
a short list, right? Like I usually have maybe the last 5 things that I
was going to
mentioned on
say 5. I
Instagram.
think 5 is the amount that you can see on one screen in Instagram. So kind of play around with it, because it also depends on how much you write, right? Because the buttons get bigger as you write more.
And you don't want to
ideally, you don't want to have to scroll. You don't want them scrolling, right? It's kind of like 5 would be the most. And then that being said, if you have something that's like super important, like let's say if you have a book launch, right? Let's say you write a book and really all you want is people buying this book, then just put the link to the book, right? Like if there's literally only one thing that you have going on right now, don't even bother distracting them. But if it's just for your everyday use and you're in between launches and you just want different ways for them to kind of connect with you, then those multi-links are really good.
Yeah. So that makes a lot of sense, because Carol Lamb is just asking here, what about Linktree? So for listeners, I just dropped the link over here into our Facebook feed, but it is linktr.ee. That's the site, or just search Linktree and you'll find it. But there are other services like that. And it makes it very easy to update, things that you're trying to promote within your Instagram account. Okay. So that all has to do with our bio. What is the next big mistake that coaches are making?
Yeah. So one other thing that I see coaches do is kind of being like the all work and no play, like all business, right? Every post is like, look at my kale. Here's how I work out. Look at how, I traded out my wine for kombucha or whatever, right? It's just kind of over and over, like super healthy, well-intentioned, right? And that's what we want to be doing, is talking about kind of our expertise, but without any of that personality. Right? Without showing pictures of themselves, without showing kind of how you really live. I always remember one of your posts from, maybe it was even this summer, where you were like, ate the everything bagel with cream cheese, right? Didn't go that well, but like, yes, sometimes I do this, right? And I one time had a client who literally was like, well, how do you stay so perfect? And I was like, I'm far from perfect. Like, we kind of course, had to unpack what perfect even meant. But in some ways, it made me realize that was still when I had my other presence on Instagram before. And I was like, wow, like, yeah, I'm not always compliant with whatever it is that I'm talking about, right? And letting people know, yes, I do eat out. Yes, I do sometimes have different things. And again, that lets someone resonate with you as a person and as a coach. Who do they want to really work with?
It's really funny because as you're speaking just now, I hear all this noise over here behind me, including tinkling in a toilet. I don't know I hope that didn't get picked up on my microphone. And I'm like, son of a, I know I shut my door. And I turn around and there's my 7-year-old right there waving at me like he wants to talk. And I'm like, if you saw me turn around, I was like, get out of here. And that's fun. It's funny though, because we are like living these real lives where things go wrong, mistakes are made, children pop up when they're not supposed to, whatever. And that's the good stuff sometimes. Like that's the stuff that makes you relatable. So you're right. If you're on your Instagram feed and you're like, drink 8 glasses of water per day, or like count your macronutrients, and like everything you post is coming from that place, you're missing this huge opportunity for people to get to know you and actually like you. And I always say this, we do business with people that we like. So you might be like the smartest coach with the best program and the most educated, but if I just like Julie more because Julie has actually shown me who she is and her personality, like she's going to be the one that I hire to work with. Because if you're hiding behind your nutrition knowledge all the time, you're sort of like a faceless entity. So I love this idea of infusing more of our like everyday lives, our mistakes, our child that just had to go to the bathroom right now while mommy is recording a podcast. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Or like yes, I ate this giant gluten-free birthday cake, and not being afraid, you don't always have to put the disclaimer. Like I see that a lot with coaches where it's like, of course I would never do this every single day and I wouldn't condone it, right? It's like they feel like there needs to be like an explanation, like I'm a coach, how could I be doing this, right? But in reality, people want to know that they're going to be able to work with you and still have a regular life. Right? Like they don't want to think that a coach is going to mean water, salad, counting, right? All of that. So yeah, I think that's
Exactly.
probably a big thing. Oh, and then I knew that there was one other point there. So another kind of just layer into that in terms of making sure you're keeping things personal is when you do make a post, right? And people start commenting, always respond. Really, that's probably one of the biggest things that I see is sometimes if I'm commenting on other health coaches, oh, wow, that looks great, or where'd you get that, or whatever. And then like it's crickets, right? Because you were already thinking about what am I going to post next? Or maybe I'm just like, okay, I did my Instagram for the week and I'm finished. Really making sure that even if you spend 10 minutes a day, looking and making sure that you actually respond to everyone who's taken the time to comment.
Well, that's only polite, but there's more than that to it, right? Do you want to explain like the reason behind?
Yeah. Well, again, it's that relationship building. It's that actual dialogue where someone starts feeling like, oh, wow, she answered, right? And then you even can follow up with another question. Like if I say like, oh yeah, I found this, great paleo bread in the supermarket, and someone writes, looks great. I might write back and say, oh, have you tried this one? Or have you tried other brands? Would love to know what you think. And then they can kind of write back to you. And then eventually you get into a dialogue where maybe there is a time that it's appropriate to say, I have this great recipe for paleo bread on my website. Do you mind if I DM you? Can I message you or would you like the recipe? And then suddenly they're agreeing to open the door to a DM. And now you have a lot more kind of room to get them into that mailing list. So
love that. And what I was kind of going at there was Instagram also really likes when conversations are happening, right?
Yes,
so by having that interaction, you're boosting your reach. Like I'm not going to say you're hacking the algorithm, but you're using Instagram the way it's meant to be used. More people are going to see your post.
100%. Yes, that is a very good point. Right.
All right. We got some questions over here. Why don't we move on to the last big mistake we want everybody to know about, and then we'll take questions. So we'll also just give you guys a few more minutes if you want to throw questions in there. So the last big mistake the health coaches are making, I know we talked a little bit before we got live on the air. You said it was about videos. Videos are very big on Instagram. So what's the mistake happening there?
Yes, videos are huge, but the thing that people don't really realize is most people are viewing them silently. They're sitting at work, they're just scrolling through their stories or they're scrolling through their feed, and it's really important to use captions. So making sure that either, now some people have the feature where you can actually kind of transcribe as you're talking, or making sure that you're typing kind of a caption in there, just so that when people look at your feed, they don't just see video, 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 video. They kind of get the gist of what you're talking about. And then they could either save it for later when they can listen with sound, or maybe they are inspired enough to take out their headset, right? Like, okay, let me listen to what she has to say. But without caption, it just kind of looks like, right.
Right.
And it's kind of a wasted minute or two. Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because when, as the creator, you're not thinking of it that way. As the creator, like, I'm going to make a video. Look how hilarious I am, or look how beautiful this meal that I just made is. But you forget that as a user, I'm sure all of us have had this experience. We're usually scrolling through silently because we're in a place where we don't want to hear it, or just because we're doing that quick scroll or really not stopping. So having those captions at the bottom is a good way to get more engagement, get more people actually watching your videos.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I like that there are ways to have it happen automatically. But even if you just use, you're actually typing. Like I've sometimes I've added my own captions, and it's not word for word, but I'm adding
Exactly.
some text that kind of gives you the gist of what I'm talking about, so that again, you might be inspired to actually turn your volume on.
Right. Absolutely. And then kind of, as we dive more into stories, right, you can use things like polls and stickers and questions and things like that as even additional ways to kind of get people more engaged with your videos, because they're not just going to watch your lips move for a minute or 30 seconds.
I mean, I'm sure you all have very beautiful lips, but this is true.
Mhm.
So again, Julie is going to be teaching you the basics of what you need to know to really use Instagram effectively without spending hours turning into some kind of technology, social media nerd. And it's all happening starting November 15th. Julie, you want to say a little bit more about this program? Let me give everyone the URL again. It's healthcoachpower.com/Instagram. Now, if you are a Healthy Profit University member, we have a discount for you. Let's talk about that offline. But for everybody else, please go to healthcoachpower.com/Instagram and you can sign up there. Julie, give us a little preview of what's going to be going on during this boot camp.
Yeah. So it's going to be 5 days, right? Pretty intense, that we're going to cover a lot, but it's going to be just a short, we're going to do an email each day and then a live call each day. And during those calls, day one is kind of really just going to be about those setups, right? So those big mistakes that we covered at the beginning, like, let's look at your bio, let's look at your link, let's look at your photo, like, let's really make sure that that intro is what it should be and it's locked down. Then as the week goes on, we're going to talk more about what to post, right? Are we thinking,
Content.
content, right? Like, should we do quotes? Should we do food? Should we do family, right? Like, how does that work? What's like a good rotation? What's a good frequency? All those questions that all come up. And then we'll kind of even rate and review, right, some of our posts. And then also talking about, right, so what to post, when to post, how frequently to post, how to kind of bridge that gap between getting people from Instagram into your mailing list, right? So different strategies there, using things like stories, using things like videos, etc. So each day we'll kind of tackle a different topic. We'll have the opportunity to meet live to review what you've been working on. And then following up, kind of that last day is really just that putting it all together, right? By that point, you'll have a couple posts made, your bio will be great, you'll have some stories in your feed, and going from there. Yeah.
That sounds so fun. So instead of it being like a pre-recorded, like, here's what to do on Instagram, you're actually like, you'll be looking at things and discussing the real posts that everybody is putting up during this week.
Yes, absolutely. And then the content, if you miss those live calls, so there'll be like a little snippet that's more instructional. And then we're really going to get into, I'm leaving an hour for every call so we can really kind of dig into people's content. And then I will have all of that recorded, of course. So even if you miss a call, you can always kind of jump into the archive where all of the material will be forever.
That's so good. That's so good. I know like some people are going to be like, well, I can't dedicate a whole week to Instagram. And I don't think you have to, right? You can just like take one of the assignments, run with it. You're going to get access to this stuff long beyond the week together. That being said, Instagram is something that's always changing. But what Julie's going to be teaching is sort of the mainstay. Like, this is how to use this platform, regardless of the features that come and go. And I have a feeling that we'll be talking about some of those.
Right. Well, because so many of the features of Instagram, right? The way the features and algorithms and everything, it's like Instagram wants you to be in Instagram. So it's kind of created for everything to sort of happen there, where really our goal as coaches is to see how we can get them out.
Yes,
right?
It's true.
Kind of work with them separately. It is, right? So it's kind of going against the regular Instagram preferences, if that makes sense.
Right. We don't make money by people just looking at our Instagram feed. We make money by getting them off Instagram and into real life.
Right. Exactly.
This is the important part. This is why using Instagram as a health coach is different than using Instagram as like an influencer. Yeah. Someone who's selling whatever, fitness wear. Teresa's saying 100%. I fell in love with my favorite trainer when she gained weight. I loved her realness, and it actually gave me the push to become one myself, knowing I didn't have to be perfect. Love that. Carolyn's asking, can you add Julie's Instagram handle? Right. So Julie's at instagram.com/healthyonhudson.
Yeah.
Courtney says, is it worth paying for the boost post option on Instagram? Have you ever done that?
I have not. I will say that because it's very similar to the Facebook actually, I take that back. I did do it once long ago. It just came back to me for one of my detoxes. And in fact, I definitely lost followers for me. I think I probably boosted the wrong thing. Like, I boosted the join the detox, right? Like the screaming, even if you've never seen me before, you're suddenly going to get this ad in your feed, right? Which, if you are going to do a strategic paid ad, we all know from trying to do them on Facebook that the way is not to do it with buy this thing.
It's not. Don't people
right? So
love
that tends to backfire. But I think you would probably agree that the organic relationship building marketing, even within Facebook, for most people is going to be more profitable than paid ads.
Paid ads across Facebook and Instagram really are the same platform. So just speaking for both, unless you are very, very well versed in them, you might as well just take your money and go flush it down the toilet.
Right. Because if you have to do them right, it's very expensive and very complicated. So you could pay someone to do it correctly.
Or don't bother.
Get you. But don't drop your $10. Spend your $10 on something else.
This is my feeling. We can do better with organic methods. Carol Ann says, how often should you post content for best visibility? And do you find certain hashtags being more effective instead?
So that's a great,
at least how often should you post?
That's a common great question. And certainly hashtags is definitely a big part of what we're going to cover during the bootcamp for sure. As far as frequency, 3 times a week. Sometimes I'll get up to 4 times a week. Sometimes I'll skip a week, right? But something so that when someone does find you, they see that your most recent post was recent, right? You don't want to go like a month or 2 months. Sometimes if I'm really going to be offline for like more than a week, I might even put like a cheesy, taking some time off, so that if somebody does take a look, they don't think I've just dipped out of the business. They know that I'm taking some stress-free, relaxation time or something like that. So, but I would say minimum 3 times a week for most people. Stories, ideally 1 story per day. And again, we'll talk about the importance of all that during the bootcamp.
Okay, so more on frequency, more on hashtags, because that's just a whole other thing to come during the program. Here's one. Dee says, can we talk about the push for reels? I've only done one. It was somewhat fun, but awkward. Are they effective? Should we use them to educate and show our other fun side like you suggest? So what's up with reels?
So I actually mentioned to Michelle when this call began, just as Instagram likes to always, pull things out from under us, they are actually doing away with their reels. And everything is just going to be under video kind of moving forward. And I think that change is going to be kind of a rolling change is what it looks like. So some people may get different features before others. But anyway, if your question is more related to just video in general, yes, videos can be effective. They definitely can feel awkward at times, right? We'll certainly challenge ourselves to do, even if it's a super short thing for a story, just to do some kind of video content. But the concept of having reels as its separate thing is something that, from what I understand, what I've read online is that Instagram is moving away from that. It's all going to be rebranded just as videos.
It's so interesting. I mean, the cool thing about when they introduce a new feature is that they're usually pushing that feature. And if you use that feature, you get more reach. So it's fun to take advantage of the new stuff, but it does just keep changing. So I think it is most important just to learn how to create good content, regardless of like, is it going to be a reel? Is it going to be a video? Is it going to be a post? Is it going to be 3D teleportation? Who knows what it's going to be in the future. But knowing how to connect with someone through your content regardless. That's a really good question. And there are more, and we are out of time for today. So once more, I'm going to encourage you guys to check out Julie's 5-day bootcamp. This is a very, very accessible program for health coaches that teaches you how to use the Instagram platform specifically for what you need it to do as a coach. And you can get all the details and sign up at healthcoachpower.com/Instagram. Thank you for being here with us today, Julie. It has been fun to have you.
Thank you. It's been super fun to be here as well. And I'll do my best to answer any of the other questions over in Facebook.
Yes, I was just going to say, if you guys have questions for Julie, you can reach her on Instagram at Healthy and Hudson. But Julie is also one of the admin inside of our Health Coach Power Community Facebook group. And that is a fantastic place to ask questions, because then other people will see your questions too, and you might get answers from multiple places. And it's just probably a more well-rounded experience. So feel free to go to healthcoachpowercommunity.com and leave questions there, and you can tag Julie if you like, but we'll have an eye out for those. Great. Good. Thanks for being here today, everybody. And we'll see you inside the boot camp, if not before then. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.